Hello and welcome to my practice today. Today we're going to work a little bit on shoulders, but it will be also a whole body workout. So we're going to start with a warming up with downward facing dog. So place your hands and knees onto your mat, hands shoulder width apart, knees approximately hip distance apart, longer distance between knees and wrists than there is between armpits and hips. Tuck your toes under, lift up, keep looking forwards between your hands and roll your shoulders outwards, which means roll the shoulders out this way as if they're going almost towards the knees. Tuck your tailbone under and lift your sternum towards the space between your thumbs. Your sternum is the bone between your front ribs. And then straighten out the legs behind you. If this is tough on your neck, just bring the head to a more neutral position, but keep your chest reaching forward. So keep the sternum reaching towards the space between the hands, stretching and lifting the whole body now. And then rest down. Take your knees wider than your feet, bring your feet together and rest back onto your heels. Straight arms still, keep the elbows off the floor, press down with the hands, lift up with the elbows, roll out with the shoulders. Head resting. If your forehead won't reach the floor, take a yoga brick or a block or a book, something fairly solid, and rest your forehead down. So press down with the hands, lift the elbows up, straight arms, roll the shoulders out. So we're not lifting the elbows by bending that way, we're straightening the arms, but we're just keeping the elbows from pushing towards the floor, lifting them up, not sinking them down. And then we'll go into a downward facing dog again. So just repeating, waking up the body, knees bent to begin with, chest coming forwards, lengthen, straighten out the legs, head to a neutral position but chest still going forwards, rolling the shoulders out, straighten the elbows, and now here also make sure that the elbow doesn't push towards the floor, especially if you get any elbow pain in this pose. So making sure the elbows lift away from the floor, but we do actually lift the hips back. It's really easy in yoga to try and move one part of the body and then the whole body moves unintentionally. Come back down again, knees wide, feet apart, active again in our ADHO MUKHA VIRASANA pose. So bottom back towards the heel. And again, so if that won't happen for you, place a yoga block or a cushion, something so that you do have a connection here between your bottom and your feet. Active arms, maybe take the hands a bit wider this time so you can get very wide in the shoulders. Still straighten the arms, keep the elbows away from the floor. Shoulders very broad, rolling outwards. And then walk your hands back towards your knees to sit up. So just as a basic thing in yoga, when we talk about turning something inwards or outwards, we're generally talking about to the midline of the body. So rolling something inwards, for example, my legs, would be rolling in like so. Rolling outwards would be out like that. So rolling the arms in would be coming in towards the center line of my body. Rolling the arms out would be rolling them out. So if you had a graphic arrow rolling out like that. So arms out, arms in. I can do a big wave. So generally that's what the in and the out is referring to. It's referring to the midline of the body. Next, we're going to do triangle pose. And I'm going to suggest that you take a chair today, so you can do triangle pose in a very supported way. And we're going to go to the right side first. So triangle pose can be a very challenging leg pose. Step your feet wide apart with one foot slightly under the chair seat. But it is also about opening the shoulders and rotating the trunk. And that's what we're going to particularly focus on here. Turn your left toes in slightly, right foot all the way out. So out again, midline, roll out, and the whole of the right leg should point along your mat, whereas the left leg isn't trying to follow. We're trying to actually open the hips both out. Press into both feet, wide in the arms, straight in both legs, broad in the shoulders, and shoulders don't start to raise towards the ears. So relaxed in the shoulders, and then bring your hand down to the chair seat. So focus here, whether this is a challenge or whether this is relatively easy, focus here on lifting up with the legs. Get that outward rotation with the front leg and get that outward rotation with the back leg. So the back leg is trying to just face front, but it's drawn in to follow the front. So it's outward rotation in both legs, but it's not an even symmetrical pose, so it's a slightly different action in both legs. Tailbone draws down towards that back foot. Got my hand on the chair for stability. I've also got the hand on my chair to help me turn and to keep lots of space under here. So we don't want to fold and curve on the underside of our waist. We want to stay nice and open. So straight arm, this shoulder, draw it away from the ear and move your shoulder blade down your back. So shoulder blade up, shoulder blade down the back. Reach out if you can with your hand away from your shoulder. So making a diagonal line now. And then strong legs to come up, rest your hand down, turn the feet to the front, bring your feet together. Now I'll repeat facing the other way so you get the back view. You'll be doing it on the other leg, so you could turn around if you don't need to see the video, or you can move your chair to the other side if you need to watch. Turn your right foot in, which is now your back foot. Turn your left foot out. Press through both legs, straight in both legs. Tailbone in, broad in the arms, lifting through the legs. Take your hand down, and that hand should line up with your leg. Put your hand on your hip, your right hand on your hip. So straight legs, think about the rotation of the legs as we did on the other side. So they're both rotating out in their own way. Draw the tailbone towards that back foot. That tucks your bottom in rather than excessively pushing the bottom behind you. And then reach out with your right hand. Be aware of what you're doing with your left shoulder. So don't draw the shoulder towards the ear, but draw the shoulder down, and then the shoulder blade back here moves down the back rather than moving up the back. So we keep both shoulders away from the ear and open across the shoulder blades. And then stand up, arms down, feet to the front, bring the feet together. One more time on each side. For those of you who need more of a challenge, take your feet wide. We will go a little bit lower with the hand. So feet wide, turn in the same way, left foot in, right foot out. Outward rotation, broad in the shoulders. Then we're going to bring the hand down, and if you can go a bit lower, take your forearm onto the chair. Still be really spacious under here. Put your hand on your hip to begin with, because that will help the back leg and the back rim of the pelvis to roll out. Shoulder, move it away from your ear. Shoulder blade down your back, moving the hip away from your waist as well. As you rotate, lift the inner leg of the right leg, the front leg, and then if you can, reach out with your hand, and if your balance is good, look up to that left hand. Turn back to the front, straighten the arm, come all the way back up, hands down, feet to the front, bring your feet together. Second side for the last time, wide feet, turn them to your left, straight legs, wide arms, bring your hand down to the chair, either straight arm as we did before, or you can bend that forearm, keep space under here, keep moving your shoulder blade away from your ear, reach out with your other arm. If your balance is good, look up towards the ceiling, and then come back up, hands down, feet to the front, bring the feet back together. For the next pose, we're going to balance in half moon pose. So this is everything we've just done. Just so happens we're only on one leg. Most people need something to support their hands. Now you can use a chair, but it tends to be too high. So I'm going to show with a yoga brick. Use something steady and solid. If you don't have appropriate yoga equipment, just watch how we're going to use it and then choose something that works for you. You can use a pile of the flat blocks if you have those, if you don't have a brick. And as I say, you can use a chair, so I'll show with a chair as well briefly. So briefly, you put your hand down, bend the leg, back foot in, hand forwards, find your balance, turning away from the floor. So you can see how the prop is for my hand. So if you're familiar, you could challenge yourself and stay balanced. I will just show you with a chair. So that's going to be substantially higher than the brick, as you can see. Now your hamstrings might need that, but for many people that will be too tall. So what you can do is you can be on the forearm again, or you can be on a straight arm, but just be aware, see I'm not fully on a straight arm, that is quite high. So you may need to be a bit softer in the elbow. So if a chair's all you've got, work with that. If you've got a lower stool or something else, you might be better with a lower lift under your hand. Okay, now if you were holding your half moon pose that whole time, well done. We're going to go and do this on the second side now, and then we will even ourselves up. So we'll go to the left now, assuming you've done one side whilst I was showing the options. If you haven't, pause and do your first side. So a bit more detail about how the legs work. Turn the legs as for triangle pose. Place your brick by the left foot this time. Wide arms, straight legs. Bring your hand down into your triangle pose. If you have to, you can bend that knee, but be straight if you're able to. Some people find balance easy with the hand up, some with the hand down. I'm more of a hand down person. Bend the front leg, and then in one movement, the back foot comes forwards and the front hand goes forwards. This leg doesn't move at all. Stay slightly bent as we find our balance. You can see the back foot's starting to be off the floor now. I lift that to hip height if I'm able to, and then I straighten my standing leg. I'm turning my chest away from the floor. Now I can add in reaching out with my hand. Don't do that if you feel your balance can't take it. And then you're going to bend that standing leg. You're going to reach well back with the foot. So I move the hand and the foot at the same time. Straighten your leg and stand up. Turn your feet to the front and bring your foot back together. Let's do the first side for a second time. You can see how I'm starting towards one side of my mat each time. That helps to make sure my hand stays on the mat. So I'm going to turn, hand down, bend the front leg, bring the back foot in, reach forwards with the hand. Now be steady, bit less talking, focus. Straighten the standing leg. Reach away with both the heel and the top of the foot, the front of the foot, where the toe bones are. Reach away. Not pointed in the foot, but trying to reach away with both sides of the feet, the top and the bottom. Reach out and be wide in the shoulders, in the arms if you're able. And then bend your leg. Bring your hand back. Stand up. For some reason I left my brick behind that time. And then bring your feet together. I can gather my brick now. Last repetition of this for now. Wide feet. Support on your left, either in your hand or you can place it by your foot. Turn your feet as for triangle pose. Bring your hand down. Turn the chest away from the floor. Bend your knee. Back foot in, hand out. Start to find your balance. Reach out with both feet, both arms, broad in the shoulder. Control that shoulder blade on the underarm, the underneath arm, so that it doesn't lift towards the ear. Bend your leg, bring your hand down, foot back, and stand up. Feet to the front, bring your feet together. We're going to do a related pose, which is PARSVAKONASANA. So another standing pose. You won't need any support because we're going to use our legs for our own support. We're going to go to the right first. So broad feet again. Again, turn the left foot in, right foot out. Again, it's an external rotation of the legs, and we're going to be really broad in the arms and in the shoulders and in the chest. Bend your knee. You're going to put your forearm onto your leg. And this allows you to support yourself, but it also allows you to have something to help you control the shoulder. So draw that shoulder away from your ear. Lift your chest up, but tailbone in. Wide across the shoulder. So press with your forearm, not to straighten the leg, that stays nice and deeply bent, but press with the forearm to be wide from shoulder tip to shoulder tip. Find where your shoulder blade is on your right arm and draw it down your back. And then reach out wide with your left arm. If it comes easily, you can turn your palm over to face the ceiling approximately and reach it over. But if you start to find your hand wanders forwards, you're much better to be really wide in the arms. So you can reach over if you're able. Now you sweep the arm back, you straighten the legs, you turn the feet to the front, and you bring your feet together. And then we'll do the second side. So we step our feet wide, we turn the right foot in, left foot out, straight legs, broad arms, forearm is going to go onto my thigh, so I bend my knee, chest and waist faces the front, external rotation in those legs, bring your forearm down. I'm just moving my back foot away because I feel like I can go a bit further, and you must never let your knee go forwards of your ankle because it's very bad for the knee joint. So I'm externally rotating my thigh bones and my hips to get this leg to go this way and this leg to, as much as possible, face more to the front. Then I'm pressing with my forearm to make sure this shoulder doesn't shrug towards my ear. Move the shoulder blade at the back of your body away from your ear. Reach out really wide with your hand. If you're working with limited mobility in your shoulders, reach to the floor instead. So stay wide from here to here. The particular position of the arm is not as important as that width. Now if you can reach out to the side, you can turn your palm to the ceiling, and you can take your arm over, only if it comes in line with or behind your ear. If it doesn't, then stay with a more open angle. And then let's all sweep the arm back, straighten the leg, turn the feet to the front and bring the feet together. So we're just going to rest in Adho Mukha Virasana. We've done this already. Toes together, knees apart, bring your hands down, bring the hands forwards. Again, support underneath your bottom if you need to, support underneath your head if you need to. Take your hands wide so that your shoulders roll out. Arms straight, or if the arms are feeling very tired, then keep your elbows quite wide, but they can go on the floor. So if you still have the energy to work actively, work with straight arms, and particularly press the weight back towards your feet. But if you need to, take a little bit more of a rest, but keep the elbows fairly wide. Head is resting, let the breath come back to be steady. If you're struggling with the breath coming back, then elongate the out breath to help that process along. And then lift your head, walk your hands back. Now we're just going to repeat that, and we're going to do a little bit of work with the weight of the head working with itself and the neck muscles. So make sure that when you take your head down, you're fairly straight in the neck. You're not bringing your head down like this to get it to the floor, because that isn't going to work. You need your forehead to be resting on the floor or on support. And to be honest, if in doubt, take some support. So I'm going to take a brick. You've also got the option of flat blocks or books or whatever you're working with. And we're going to just do some small movements to make us aware of the muscles of the neck and to help them turn on and turn off to feel those sensations. So we can work with the arms fairly soft. Again, elbows wide, so go back to where you were. But then what we're going to do is deliberately press the forehead, not aggressively, but a deliberate slight pressure down onto the floor or the brick or the block, and then release that. So there's a difference between when we press down and when we simply have the weight of the head resting. So lift, adjust, let the head rest, only rest, no pressing. The head is a heavy object. And then we're going to deliberately press. And you'll feel particular parts of your neck, the front neck, the side neck, working to create that forward motion of the head. And then release. Let the head rest. And then again, adjust to make sure you're on the centre of the forehead and press. Only just enough that you feel the work of the muscles. And then release. Let the head rest. Just under its own weight. Now what we're going to do next is kind of the opposite, because we're going to lift the head, but only a couple of millimetres, hardly at all. So comfortable arms again, and then we're going to lift the head. I'm not even letting the skin leave the block, but I've let 99.9% of the weight of the head come up, and then I'll let it go down again. And again, I'm looking to feel the muscles of my neck working. So I'm going to lift most of the weight of my head up, and then we're going to rest it down. Almost so little that you can't see, but I can feel the action of the muscles lifting my head. It's a very heavy part of our body. Last time now, so I'm resting, and then I make my head light, and I look for which muscles do that work, and then I rest down. And also feel when the muscles stop. Now push your arms and come back up. Now I'm fairly sure I've probably got a very attractive red patch on my forehead now from that work. It will wear off, and you're in the privacy of your own home, so no one can see you. What we're doing there is becoming aware of the muscles of the neck. We very often hold the head forwards, and these muscles get understretched and underworked because nothing supports, and these muscles get overworked and overstretched. So by pressing forwards, these muscles get resistance that they normally don't have, and by lifting up, we get to feel the muscles here working, but then also get to feel the opposite of them letting go. And we're going to come back to that sensation when we do relaxation at the end of the class. But for now, we're going to carry it forward in our more physical practice. So we have definitely recovered, and we're going to do UTTANASANA. So that's a forward bend where we're going to be lifting the head. We're going to do half UTTANASANA first of all, either with a chair if you need that height or don't have any other equipment. I'm going to use yoga bricks. I'm going to place my feet hip distance apart. I'm going to fold at the hips as if I was folding over something, so I'm just holding the bricks so you can see. Straight legs, bring your hands down. Now here we are very much lifting the head away from the floor. Make sure you're not dropping it, so lift it up and back until it feels parallel with the rest of the front of your body. The sternum, which is the bone between the front ribs and the collarbones, lift that forwards. Lift the collarbones forwards towards whatever is in front of you out there beyond your mat. Shoulders draw away from your waist. Shoulder blades move from your neck away towards your waist. So this is a leg stretch, but we're thinking of it about how it affects the upper body. If you find this very tough in the legs, let yourself have some time with the knees bent. If you don't, then continue to work with the legs straight as well. Lift up. So we're going to take that forwards. I'm going to face a different direction just so that you can see, but you can stay in whatever orientation you prefer. And this time, if your legs will let you, you're going to fold further. So we'll begin in half Uttanasana. This is identical to what we did before. Straight lifted legs. Again, I'm being really aware of lifting my face as a flat surface, so I'm not lifting my forehead and pushing my chin forwards. I'm lifting my whole face away from the floor, drawing the shoulders away from my ears, lifting the sternum forwards. Sometimes we'll look forwards on purpose to help the sternum come forwards, but here we want to be a bit more neutral in the neck. Now bring your hands lower. If you know your legs can do it, that can be all the way to the floor. If you don't know, then you can put your support on any other orientation. So you can put the bricks the flat way round. If you're working with a chair, you can bend your elbows a little bit, or you can work your hands down the chair legs. So lots of options that don't mean that you have to go straight to the floor. I'm going to show with my hands on the floor, a little bit wider than my feet. I'm going to bring my head back into a straight line because I've gone into that habit of lifting forwards again. And now my back isn't flat to the floor, it's slanting. So I need to make sure my neck's more neutral. I'm lifting up through my legs. And I'm going to bend my elbows out. I'm going to take my hands even wider. And with this, I can separate my shoulders, drawing outwards away from my neck. I can let my head hang. So now I have let my chin come forwards a little bit, but it's nice and open in the throat and very open in the back of the neck. Very neutral in the head. So now the neck muscles really should be doing nothing at all to hold on to the head. It's just held there under its own weight. My shoulders are lifting and my torso is descending. Breathe steadily, and then we've had our heads lower than our hearts for quite some time, so we'll come out slowly. So we'll straighten the arms first of all. We'll look towards the floor. We'll bring the hands in a little bit. We'll begin to look forwards a little, and then we'll take a deep breath in and we'll release that as we come up. Slowly, 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 and then come back to standing. So if you ever spend a long time inverted, so head down, just be careful as you come back up again. We're going to work on the shoulders, and we're going to clasp the hands behind. So clasping the hands means to take the hands, interlace them like so. And I want you to interlace them your strange way round. What that means is that you interlace them without thinking, and one of the little fingers will always be the same one on the bottom, and one of the thumbs will always be the one that goes on the bottom. So then you shift, so it's the other little finger, and in fact all the other fingers change position as well. But you know you've got it right when it feels a little bit strange, and when this little finger is not the one that started off on the bottom, but it's on the bottom now. So interlace the strange way round. Stand in Tadasana, so that's simple standing position, feet slightly apart, straight legs. Now turn your hands, wriggle them together right at the root of the finger, turn your hands inside out, draw the shoulders down, straighten the arms as well as you can, hands lower than the shoulders. So I'm trying to be very wide between here and here, even now, even though I have bound my hands. The Sanskrit for this is BADDANGULLYASANA, which means bound hand pose, in a kind of clumsy translation. Draw the shoulders down, sternum lifts up, tailbone goes in. Now we're going to take the hands up. You don't have to go all the way to vertical. Be aware of what your hips and legs are doing and don't let them push forwards. So that might limit how far you can take your hands up. That's completely fine, because it stops your hips and legs kicking in to save your shoulders. We don't want to hurt the shoulders, but we do want to isolate the movement there. Now bring your arms down. Now we're going to go for the familiar way of interlacing the fingers. You may or may not be able to feel, but it changes how your wrists and your forearms stretch, and in fact the whole arm. So it is important to do both ways round. I'm going right ahead and I'm straightening my arms up towards the ceiling, paying attention to my legs and my hips again, and indeed my tummy and my front ribs. Everything stays in a straight line, not pushing forwards or pushing backwards. And then we're going to come back down again. Now what we're going to do is we're going to interlace the fingers behind the back. So again, now you won't be able to see your fingers, but you need to interlace the strange way round first of all, okay? And then draw your knuckles down towards the floor. What that's going to do is really open the front shoulders. Take your feet at least hip distance apart and be very strong and lifted in the legs and start to come forward. So we're adding in Uttanasana, forward bend. Start to come forwards. Your legs may hold you back, and if you start to feel your back round, if that happens very quickly, then you can bend your knees a little bit, but straighten if that's at all possible. I'm going to fold and fold and fold to my best pose with a straight back, and then I'm going to let my hands come over, keep my hands close to each other and interlaced, dropping my head again, arms over, but lifting the shoulders away from the floor. So I'm lifting up through the arms, but I'm also taking them over in an arc, as if my little finger could touch the floor over at the front edge of my mat beyond my head. It's not going to, but that's the direction of travel. And then we take the hands back onto the back. Breath in, strong legs, come up. Now interlace your more habitual way around with the hands, so normal way, not thinking way. One more, go again, so stretch down, open those front shoulders, bring the shoulder blades together now, strong straight legs, folding down. Remember, you have the option of bending the knees if you need to, but straighten them if you can. Once you've folded all the way you can with a straight back and chest lifting forwards, not caving in, then you start to take the arms over. So straight arms, elbows straight, shoulders are close together now behind me, but they're lifting towards the ceiling as well. And I go over as much as I can. I can feel the difference. This is tougher for me than the first interlace of the hands. And then I'm going to bring the hands down. I'm going to let that initiate lifting the head, lifting the chest, breathe in, stand up and release the interlace of the hands. We're going to go again with the shoulders, and you will need a yoga belt or a dressing gown belt, something like that, for GOMUKASANA. Now you may or may not be able to clasp your hands. I'll come a little bit closer and I will show you with a belt and without a belt. So around to show you my back, you're going to take your left hand up your back and hold your elbow and encourage it. If you're very stiff, you're actually going to encourage your hand across over here to begin with. Draw the elbow in, and as you do that, this shoulder needs to open out, so don't allow it to come forwards. There is now an outward, again, rotation that way of the arm. Be careful that the rest of your body doesn't go forwards to help, so keep yourself vertical. Then let's try that on the other arm. So bring the other arm in. Now if you're stiff, you're going to aim your arm in that direction, but if you are less stiff, you're actually going to aim the arm, or the fingers I should say, sorry, up to the spinal line, so up towards the centre of your body. Opening out the front shoulder. The more you open out the front shoulder, the less you'll get this. This is my shoulder blade sticking out. And if I had an ideal body, this would be flat. So I can do a little bit about that. I can certainly be worse, but I can also be better. Now we're going to release, and we're going to go back to the first side. So what we're going to do is take the arm up the back. Now if you're not familiar with this, or you know that you struggle to get the hands to meet each other, then you can see I have my belt in my hand. And what I'm going to do is take that hand into the air, maybe out of the camera to begin with, step forwards. So into the air, turn the palm to the back, and then bend the elbow and bring the hands down. So I'll step towards you, and hopefully you can see that either your fingertips meet or the belt allows you to clasp. Again, make sure you haven't pushed your hips forwards, your bottom forwards. Keep the chest open. Do clasp the fingers if you can, and don't be just satisfied with fingertips. Try and get more and more of the fingers. Ultimately, in this pose, you actually clasp the wrists with each hand. Now release the arms, take that arm down. So I'll show without a belt this time. So the arm that went up, which was the right arm for me last time, that is now going to go as the lower arm. Going to come up my back, opening out that front shoulder. I'm going to reach up with my left hand, turn the palm to the back by turning the little finger in towards the centre line of the body, bend at the elbow and see if my fingertips can find each other, just about. Outward rotation with the lower arm, and it's actually an inward rotation of the upper arm. So the upper arm rotates this way, so that more and more of my tricep here faces you. Be careful that you don't push your head out of the way. That is really common, to push your head out of the way. And also be careful that this elbow isn't going diagonal. So it is not a pose where you make a diagonal. It's an up and down pose. Release the arms now. Stretch them down. Be broad across the shoulders. Lift the sternum. Now we're going to put that into practice, that shoulder opening action. We're going to get the benefit of it in upward facing dog using a chair. So bring your chair and brace it against a wall if at all possible. So mine's actually a wardrobe, but it will do. And what we're going to do, it's so that the chair doesn't slip. So for safety's sake, try to have it against a stable object. And you're going to take your hands onto the chair, hold the side of the chair. So you can see how my knuckles are facing outwards, palms of the fingers facing inwards. Then you're going to look at the wall behind you and step your feet behind, strong legs, and then lower your hips and your pubic bone towards the chair. Open out with the shoulders. You don't have to grip the chair, you can stretch the fingers if you're able, but be wide in the shoulders. Roll those arms out. Lifting upwards, so nothing is sinking down. And then take your hips backwards slightly, step towards the chair, stand up. So we're going to try that again. And this time we're going to try turning the foot over to be on the top. So can you see that? Before we had toes tucked under, which is generally easier on people's feet and more stable feeling. If you were fairly comfortable with what you were doing with the chair, then you're going to try turning your feet over. So make the shape and then we'll step each foot one by one into the more pointed position. It is a strong foot stretch, so take care. So I hold the side of the chair and then I step my feet back. So more of a straight line to begin with. Roll my shoulders out. I'm bringing my hips down, but don't think sink. Think just bringing forwards with the hips and lifting upwards with the front body. Roll the shoulders out, and then if you can, you come onto the top of the feet. Reach the big toes away. Don't let your heels drop out to the side. Reach upwards with the whole of the front body, and then bring the feet back into that tucked position. Walk forwards and stand up. So we're going to try one last go with upward facing dog with the chair. So you're going to take your hands onto the chair and you can now decide whether you want to go onto the tops of your feet or onto the toes tucked under. And maybe if you've been a little bit nervous, maybe take your feet a little bit further away. But it's all about the lift upwards with the front body. It should feel very energetically lifted up, so not at all sinking. And if you're tired, just take a rest. It's totally fine. So hands outwards, holding the side of the chair. Step a brave distance backwards. Straight line to begin with, shoulders down towards the hips, and then lift up with the whole of the front of your body. You can even lift the front of that neck. I've come onto my tiptoes this time, I'm going to go all the way onto the tops of my feet, reaching the big toes back, lifting up, tailbone down towards the feet, and then to come back, step those feet back, hips back, and then step forwards. Stand up. Well done, I'm sure you did fantastic. We're going to go into downward facing dog as a tiny little rest. It will certainly feel easier than upward facing dog. So if your hands are warm, you can take your hands and hold the side of the mat like so. So if you ever have a problem with slippy hands, I've got a little bit warm, you can hold the sides of your mat, tuck your toes under, lift up, keep the knees bent, and then if you have the ability to, you can straighten out those legs. Lifting up, broad shoulders. It was hard shoulder work we just did, so if your shoulders need a rest, don't stay up too long. Keep your breath steady. And then let's rest down. So let's go back to Adho Mukha Virasana, which is the knees wide, feet together. This time definitely more resting, so fold the forearms, bring your hands down. Maybe even if that is too low for you, now go for a really resting version where you face the chair seat. So if you're comfortable on the floor, you can stay, but you can also face the chair seat and rest the forehead like so. This puts less pressure on the knees, keeps more openness in the tummy. It's actually a version recommended if you're pregnant, where you would also have the bottom supported slightly. Still rolling the shoulders out, but not aggressively. There isn't a lot of assertive action there, but I am making sure my shoulders are definitely not rolling in. Head is resting, so I'm not pressing that head down, but I can feel the weight of the head on my forearms. Let your breath come back to be steady. And then push with your arms to sit up more. Push with your hands on the floor, sit up fully. And we're going to do a few seated poses before relaxation. So first of all, we're going to kneel simply, which means to sit on your own feet. You have your feet slightly apart. So you sit, feet are slightly apart so that your calves go back parallel. You may find it helpful to put your fingertips in the back of the knees and gently move the calf flesh backwards and gently outwards. Sit back onto your hands and then take your hands out. So if you have muscular or bulky calves, that can help. Make sure that your feet are going straight back and that you can feel the heel under each sitting bone, more or less, under each butt cheek. Now if you need to, you may not be able to fold the knees that much, you can take blocks and you can put blocks 2, 3, 1, and if you don't have blocks you can put cushions or blankets. Once we are knelt, we're going to interlace those fingers again. So we're kneeling simply, we're interlacing the fingers, turning the hands inside out, tailbone draws forwards. There's a real tendency here to push the tummy forward, so we don't want to do that. Draw the tummy back, separate the shoulders, take the hands forwards and then up. So you will lose sight of the hands, but they're not going to change what they're doing. Rolling the shoulders out, shoulder blades go down my back, trying to lift the index finger, your pointing finger, up towards the ceiling, lifting the joint of the thumb, the bottom of the thumb, up towards the ceiling and drawing the joints of the little finger down towards the floor. And then bring your hands down. So we will interlace the fingers the other way. What I was trying to describe is that the hands tend to not go up and face the ceiling flat. They tend to have the little fingers will go up towards the ceiling more than the thumb. So we're trying to push the thumb away and draw the little finger down once we get up there. So interlace the fingers the other way around, probably your unusual way around. Push your hands apart, away from you. Draw the shoulders apart. Strong, straight elbows. And then take the hands up. Tummy back. Tailbone gently in towards the body. Broaden the shoulders, lift the chest. Vertical if you can. And then bring the hands down. Release. Now, if you're able to, we're going to do GOMUKASANA again, but this time kneeling, in Virasana rather than simple kneeling. So knees are together and feet are wide enough apart that a yoga block can go between your feet. But don't let your feet go out at a diagonal. Your feet come in and go parallel to the body. So that's what we do. On 2 or 3 or 1 or 0 yoga blocks, ultimately you will sit on the floor one day. And that's a little bit too far. You can also use a folded blanket. I'm going to stay facing away from you. Take one hand up my back. This is exactly as we did before. So if you need a belt for the second hand, take the belt. Arm goes up, palm faces you guys. So palm faces behind you, reach down and clasp. Rolling open, the side attached to your lower arm. So for me that's left. I'm rolling in the upper arm. So remember I showed you that the tricep, the back of the upper arm should face front. Remember I said don't move your head out of the way. We don't want the elbows pointing diagonally, we want them pointing up and down, and then release the arms. Stretch them out and down for a moment, and then we just do one time on the opposite arm. So bring one arm up your back, the other arm reaches out, turns to the back, goes down. Often when yoga poses are described, I'll be giving you a glimpse of what we want ideally. Your body won't always be ready to do the ideal yoga pose yet. Believe me, mine isn't. But it's useful to know where we're going and which direction you do want to encourage movement. So don't feel that you have to make the perfect pose anytime. You just do the best pose that you can make with your body as you find it today. And now release the arms. So some days you'll find your shoulders are more amenable than others. Same with all body parts. What we're going to do next is use a wall. Again, I'm going to use the one behind me to help us turn. So I'm going to sit on a couple of blocks. So take a blanket if you need to. And I'm going to sit slightly longer than an elbow length away from the wall, approximately. Then you're going to take your feet to the side of you, away from the wall. So my right side is to the wall. What I've just done is taken my right foot underneath. Started here, take my right foot underneath and point my fingers, their toes, point my toes to the side, and then the top of this foot is going to come into the arch. I'm going to separate my knees a little because I want both knees to go on the floor. I'm going to sit up. Then in this pose, it's called BHARADVAJASANA, the feet are on this side, we always turn away from the feet. So again, I'm going to be turning away from you and I'm going to use the wall. So my right side is nearest the wall. I'm going to reach around with my right hand. You can see my right hand here. And then I'm going to reach around with my left hand. I don't want to lean towards the wall, and if I'm honest, I'm a little bit far away here. But I'll stay with it this time, working on keeping the hip down near my feet, so don't let that lift up. Turn your chest towards the wall and then face front again, and then we go to the other side. So that time I was a little bit far away from the wall, so this time I have placed myself a little bit closer, and I'm going to take my feet to face out towards you again. So because I'm turning towards the wall, I need to be moving away from my feet. So bring my left foot to face you, top of my right foot there. Bring my knees down onto the floor. Again, you can vary the height that you're sitting on. So if you can't get the knees to be comfortably down, if you experience knee pain, one of the things you can try is sitting up taller. You can certainly sit lower as well, but make sure you still feel even side to side and you're pain free. Face forwards, solid, heavy in both hips, and then I bring my left hand around behind me again. So there's my left hand, turning away from my feet, my right hand. So if you're off a flat wall, you'd be pressing, particularly with your left hand, reaching around with the right hand. I happen to have a ledge, so I'm going to press down with my right hand, which helps me to lift up as well. Be careful not to use too much, or in fact any aggression. Even if you're working quite firmly, be gentle in your attitude towards yourself. Be aware of the effect that your actions are having on your body. Be wide across the shoulders, across the collarbones, and then release that twist. We're going to do one more twist, and this time I'm going to use the chair. So it is essentially a chair version of what we just did. And if you struggled with what we just did, then the chair version is more accessible, especially if you have knee issues. So for next time you can use the chair, and this is how we do it. So towards the front edge of the chair, so we're a little way from the chair back, face forwards, and then we're going to take, I'm going to turn to my left first of all, which is towards you. So I'm going to take my left hand around and either get the chair seat or get the chair back. It really depends on what shape you're working with. And then my right hand is going to come across my body, maybe to my outer knee, but it can be to my other knee if I need it to. I'm going to sit straight and I'm going to turn my collarbones towards you. Try not to let my knees and hips turn at the same time. So keep the knees square to the front, broad collarbones, opening in the shoulders. So even this hand that's reaching round, the shoulder actually doesn't travel round. It stays in a straight line with your collarbones. I'm going to stay sat in the same way, so face front. I'm going to stay sat in the same way so that you can see the back view when we turn the other way. So now I'm going to reach my right hand around, left hand across, and I'm going to begin that turn just in my hands to find a comfortable place on the chair seat. Open the shoulders. You might find that you need to adjust your hands as your twist gets deeper. As I said in the last pose, and this is something that's true throughout your whole yoga practice, be aware of what the effects your actions are having on your body. So don't just push yourself into a shape. Yoga is awareness. And in our physical practice, it's an awareness of the effects that our actions are having on our body. Release the rotation, face the front, and then we're going to prepare for relaxation. So for our relaxation today, I'm going to focus on the shoulders and the head and the neck, and I'm going to show you a couple of techniques of how to access deeper relaxation in those areas, particularly if they're stiff for you, but this works and feels delicious even if they're not stiff areas. So I've got 2 folded blankets. You need a matching pair of something. It can be cushions, it can be yoga blocks. You will need 1 flat yoga block or something hard and flat like a large hardback book for your head. So you're going to take the yoga block or yoga block like equipment, and that's going to be for your head. Not too thick, but just a small raise. If you have nothing, you can do this off the floor. So you could lose that if you need to. Now you're going to make sure you can reach your cushions or your blankets. So I'm going to call these blankets from now on, but they're your matching pair. First of all, roll down. Support your head so that the edge of your support does not poke into your neck, but so that the whole of the back of your head is supported. So just take a moment to be really sure that's happening with your block, and then you're going to place your cushions so that they catch your wrist and your hand. So you can see here that is supporting the wrist and my hand. It's not supporting my forearm. My elbow is very solid on the floor, and my wrist and my hand are solidly supported, so they're slightly lifted. You may need extra height because you want, ideally, the flat of your hand to be more or less parallel to the ceiling. We're not going to be actively adjusting that, but if you have stiff shoulders, the higher height you go, the less you'll get that turning in, because what's happening is the shoulders won't relax outwards and they make the whole hand turn in. So support both hands, and in fact you may need to lift your head to make sure you get a matching pair. You want to support the hands some distance away from the hips. Exactly how far is a bit of personal preference. And then before you place the hands down permanently, the final thing you're going to do is actually place your triceps, the back of your upper arms, onto the floor, press down and use that to roll your shoulder blades under. Okay, so I'll just show you that again. press down and you just roll your shoulder blades under. It's a gentle movement. It's making the shoulder blades travel just a little bit away from the neck towards the waist. It should feel relaxed when you let it go, but just that bit more spacious. I'm now going to take the hands to the support. Make sure my elbows feel nice and solid on the floor. And then the very last thing I do is straighten out the legs. If you find that difficult on your back, you can support underneath the back of the knees as well. Let the feet drop out to the side, whatever they naturally will do, and close your eyes. So as we stay here, we're going to begin by feeling the movement of the breath. Let our awareness of the breath bring us into the present moment of the pose. Focus a little more on the out breath to let your body settle back to the floor, to the supports you have, to the support under your head. Feel free, if it doesn't feel like you quite have everything even, to adjust your supports, especially if it feels like it's going to niggle your attention. Much better to deal with it now than have it interrupt your focus through the rest of the practice. And now focusing on the strength of that out breath. Now I don't mean make it stronger, I mean allow yourself to feel the softening and the releasing power that the out breath has. Feel how the chest falls back as you breathe out. That influences the shoulders and the arms and the neck and the head. So breathe in normally. And as you breathe out, let your shoulders spread, your arms be heavy, your head be heavy. Now I said earlier in the practice that we would work a little bit with the head in relaxation. So we're going to do that now, doing some similar movements to those that we did before, but possibly more subtle now. So the first thing we're going to do is press the head just a little against the support beneath it, just enough that we feel the muscles around the neck turn on, nothing more than that. And then we're going to release. So next time you breathe out, just press back very gently with the head, just enough to be aware of the neck muscles working. And then release. Next, we're going to do the opposite action, which is as we breathe in, we're going to lift the head ever so slightly, possibly not even enough that you can see, but again enough that you can feel the action of the muscles begin. And then as you breathe out, let that go. Breathe in and ever so slightly hold the weight of the head up. Breathe out. Let the weight of the head deeply release. So continue that lifting and releasing for a couple more breaths. What we achieve with that action is a sense of light and shade, a sense of black and white between the muscles being on and the muscles being allowed to deeply release. And seeing as the neck is a place that often holds tension, it can teach our muscles and our psychology how to let that go. By deliberately turning it on, you get an insight in how to deliberately let it go. So as you complete 2 more cycles now, and perhaps you want to choose whether you prefer the sensation of the lifting or the pressing back, whichever one feels like it gives you the deepest sense of relaxation. Work with that for just 2 more cycles of breath. Now for our final phase of relaxation, I want you to take forwards what you could feel when the head released. And now, without using the active phase of pressing or lifting, as you breathe out, let the head and neck release more deeply down. So we're not actively doing anything this time, no lifting, no pressing. But when we breathe out, we let the head release more and more and more with each breath. Be sure that your jaw and your teeth and your tongue are resting. Let the sense of release spread, not just from the neck, but also to the face, the eyes, cheeks, the scalp, the forehead. We're going to stay for 1 more minute before we finish. When you're ready to move, first of all move your attention away from your inner experience. You've got the sound of my voice drawing you to the outside world. You have your awareness of the places that your body's connecting, the floor beneath you. And then begin with small movements of fingers, toes. That will bring life to your legs and your arms. Eventually, perhaps lift your hands onto your torso, ribs or tummy. And then bending the knees. Bring the feet flat so your knees are bent. Now roll onto your right side if you can. Take one hand and arm to cradle your head as you turn to the side. Pause on your side, and depending on the lighting in your room, shade your eyes before you open your eyes. Open them while the eyes are shaded, let them come back to be focused, and then roll a bit more onto your front slightly so that you can use your arms to push up. Slowly, slowly, and then come to be seated on your mat. Any way that's comfortable. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. If you want to say thank you for the practice, and if you're able to afford it, then you can go to my Ko-fi page, which is a way that you can give a small donation in gratitude for the class. But however you're able to afford to say thank you, whether it's just by sharing your practice with me or by making a donation, I'm really grateful that you're there. Thank you. Bye bye.